Howard,
Jake, we're on.
ep- episode four.
This
Episode
is
four.
episode four. Yeah, episode four. I think we're getting better at it, but that's just in my head, I think.
The responsible question is, how do you know we're getting better? Because you feel better about it, or are the actual statistics showing that we're doing better?
Oh, well, it's, as a marketer, I'm always looking at those statistics, and I probably spend too much time, more time than I should, going, how many impressions, how many views, but no, it's a feeling, and maybe that's where marketing is moving towards, more of a feeling in some respects. What do you think about that?
Wow, I think you're giving
Data
yourself.
versus feeling.
I think you're giving yourself a lot of leeway. And as a stats guy, I would kind of like at least hire a ClickBank farm offshore to start getting us much more
Oh yeah.
impressions.
Well,
So,
don't tell that to the
so I think
audience just yet. Jake. That was supposed to be a secret. The YouTube boosters
are
for
you
all.
telling me that all those 20 views are not just you and your family? Are you saying that we've hired people to click?
Oh, maybe no,
So
no.
I
Those
don't
are
agree
those
with
are
you.
genuine viewers, and I'm proud of all 30 of those viewers. For those episodes, it means that at least what we have to say and what some of our guests have to say is interesting.
I think it's right, and I'm surprised because this is just generally a chat that you and I have personally. So I'm glad that it's of some interest to other people, and I think that the goal here is to try and bring in voices and hear different ideas that we typically don't get heard. And so rather than doing a traditional go-to-market, focusing like
Yeah,
last time we had a sales guru, we've talked about branding and marcom. Today we have someone who's a little bit on in the different end of the marketing arena.
I
So
would say
I think it's
deeper.
deeper. Okay.
Deeper in the execution, and that's design. Like you said, I think having more voices from the full go-to-market picture to hear from them is a valuable voice. And so, without further ado, we have today's guest, someone that we've worked with, right? I think that's going to be a theme: people that we know and people that we work with, and that we're comfortable speaking to and comfortable speaking with us, hopefully. And that's Racheal Doades.
Racheal Doades,
Welcome,
ladies and gentlemen,
Racheal.
bring her on the stage.
I'll tell you afterward how uncomfortable you guys made me today on a scale of how usually uncomfortable you make me versus okay.
Well, let's go right into it. Why we make you feel uncomfortable? That's
No, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. It was interesting to hear you guys say about creative being on a different end of the spectrum. We can dig more into that in a little bit. I'd like to hear your
I think
thoughts.
we're going to do exactly that. It's because on the one hand, we just came from a
wait, wait, wait,
conversation.
wait, 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 wait. We keep making this mistake. Let's properly introduce our guest, Racheal. Racheal, like I said in a quick intro, we've worked with Racheal for a few years together at Latico. Now she is the owner of a design agency, and Racheal, to tell us a little more about that, Alister, that you have going. So I wanted to just properly introduce someone that is a great design talent, and again, that's why we have her on.
Well, super happy to be here. I know that Gabby Young was on the previous episode, so following in the footsteps of the greatness of Gabby Young, I hope I can. I'm up to the task. Thanks, Howard, for the intro. Yes,
Yeah,
I was an in-house creative director for almost 20 years. Recently opened a couple years ago a boutique creative agency called Alister. And we work with, everything from clients that are in the cybersecurity space to financial intelligence, anti-money laundering, hybrid cloud security apps. I mean, every you're talking about a spectrum, you're talking about into the tech space, we're on all ends of the spectrum there. So happy to catch up with you guys as always and talk about the joy of marketing.
It's exciting to have you here. We were just bantering about the different end of the spectrum. And then we started with this whole notion of, how you feel and how you feel that it's going versus how it's really going. And I don't want to paint design and branding as a feeling area, but maybe that's something that's top of mind. Of like, we're so held accountable for the money.
Oh,
Money.
okay.
We're supposed to
Jackie, give up
accountable
props
for the
this time.
money, and we just came from a conversation with Mr. Money, Mr. Sales, Avi Wiesenberg, and how on earth can we balance our responsibilities to the rest of the go-to-market and bring the dollars and cents with this feeling and brand? So maybe we just want to give some thoughts as to how you see the role of brand and design coming into the money equation.
Right. So it needs to be a balance between the two, right? So our ultimate goal as marketing designers and branders is to move the needle, right? We're not there just to, come up with ideas and make things pretty for no reason. Our artwork is not going to go into a gallery, right? It's going to be shown to our prospects. And so we need to keep that end goal in mind, top of mind all the time. Together with that, we need to understand that marketing can have a very visceral reaction within people. When you look at certain brands, you get a feeling. When I think about marketing design and branding, I think about design and creative being kind of the gateway to everything else that you do, right? Think about if you go to a website, or if you pick up a book, or if you go to a store, or wherever you go. The first impression before anything else is what you see, not what you read, not what you learn about the product, not what you learn about the sales pitch, not what you learn about the stats, how certain product is going to improve nothing matters until you can be drawn in. And what's going to draw you in is a design that is visually appealing, looks professional, and resonates with you. You can say, okay, this is for me. This is not for the guy next door. This is something that I need to dig more into. And then you start reading the content and getting more into it. But if you are coming out of the gate with branding and design that doesn't resonate and doesn't have some kind of feeling to it, I mean, it's hard to change that first impression.
I agree with that. I mean, I think everyone would agree with it. And you help us a little bit, because the problem is that everyone has different taste, or what do they say?
Yeah, I was gonna say it's sometimes design can be subjective. How do you take that apart? How do you challenge that? Does your aesthetic versus what the personas resonate with?
I mean, I'll speak for myself personally, and the designers that I've worked with. I think that over the years you become pretty good at putting your own personal preferences aside and focusing on what will resonate with your target audience. Now, that's not always true. Sometimes it's a battle between what you believe is right and what maybe your manager or your client is telling you they want. I don't like the way that it looks. I don't like that color. It doesn't matter what you like. What matters is what's going to resonate with your target audience. And so I think it's hard for a lot of people to put those personal feelings aside and to really put themselves in the shoes of their prospect. The way to do that is
I love that comment, Rach, but I'm going to hold you to that, because B2B sales cycles can be 3, 6, 12 months. And as long as it's generally professional, we'll say it's in that general category, how are you measuring that your writer and that your 20 years of experience are adding more value than what I think as being a marketing executive, a sales executive, a CEO, a CFO? Everyone has opinions on this. And how can we bring that definitive experience? And that shows. I like how you're holding yourself accountable, but metrics wise, it's your blue versus my pink versus your gray. How do we know that you're right?
A/B testing is the only way. I mean, there's no other way to know. You can run campaigns that are the same in every other aspect, as we all know what A/B testing is, but make certain changes. You can talk to your customers. At the end of the day, I think it's important to accept that creative is not an exact science. It will never be an exact science, but you need to be able to get that feedback from your customers in order to help you calibrate and understand what's working, what's not working.
Jake, I want to jump in there also. Jake, I don't know if it's just design by itself. It's not designed by itself. It's design with the words, with the messaging, with the delivery, right? You can have, how many times you can have the best design, you can have the best words, but let's say, you get the ads up and you make a mistake and you underbid, or you're targeting the wrong person, and then you're just like, oh, that's not good, but some other mistake unrelated to design, unrelated to your message could have impacted that. It's really hard for designers, from my perspective, have a harder time saying it's the design, right? We talked last time about attribution and what marketing says versus sales. It's like, I don't know, do Rachel, do market, I haven't heard a marketer say, oh, it's because of the shiny, the great design, that's why we closed that $2 million deal. It's like we had the similar conversation with Gabby when it came to message. I think it's actually a full package. And when you package all of these things together, it becomes less about the parts.
I agree with that, Howard. So it is about the full package, not just the parts. However, we still need to be able to gather as much information and feedback as we can from our target audience, in order to be able to make the adjustments needed to make our design more impactful. We're not just designing in a vacuum. We're doing it again, with the end goal of moving the needle, and the only way that we can know if we're moving in the right direction or if we need to make a shift or a change is to get feedback from our prospects and our customers.
Rach, has anyone ever said to you, any other customer ever in your 20-year experience ever said to you, I don't like your design and that's why X, Y, Z? I mean, is that a realistic target that we could get that type of feedback? People would say, I don't like your product, or stop harassing me, Mr. Salesperson. Like, is that really how I get A/B testing, but I can't rebrand every year and say, oh, the customers are going to prefer pink versus blue. Like how, and I know I'm simplifying it, but I like your idea of hearing from customers, but are customers not reacting to the general value proposition and not just the design work?
Customers are reacting to the full package, as Howard said before. But you can kind of see by doing, again, not designing within a vacuum, but constantly doing research on the market. You research your customers, you research your competitors, you research other industries, kind of understand where things are going. Even if you had a website that you designed 20 years ago and you still think it's great, it's not professional at this point because it's outdated. So being able to keep things fresh and to present that professional persona to your customers, that can make a 20-person startup in Tel Aviv look like a 2,000-person company in Palo Alto. These are the goals. It's all about perception, to be perceived the way that you want to be perceived. That's the goal of branding and marketing design.
Great. It leads me with
coming off of.
I like the chitter chatter. Go ahead.
I love it.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna coming off of that. How do you balance that with trends? I know that what I do with our design here at Lightico, we have kind of, like you said, there's a certain, and Gabby mentioned it too. There's a certain enterprise aesthetic and way to elevate the brand, but in order to achieve certain ad goals or content goals, there's a psychology to it. There is a way to present an image that causes people to stop. Jake, you appreciate that. Just like there's stop and block at a conference in person, there's stop and block visually. How do you get the person to stop and just notice you in the first place? So where do trends fit in with that? And then there's a two-parter here. With trends, there's AI, and where do you having AI keep up with those trends? That's something that I found valuable. Yeah. Was curious about your perspective on it.
Sure. So to answer the first part of your two-parter, when you do a rebranding process, right? You're a startup and you're doing a branding process for the first time, you're going to end up with this beautiful new brand that's an agency or in-house, it's been created for you with the brand style guidelines, all of, the whole 9 yards. These are not documents and guidelines that are set in stone by any means. It's something that's not supposed to be taken as a letter of the law until your next rebranding project 2-3 years down the line. A brand is something that's a living and growing thing that needs to constantly adapt and adjust and improve on itself, right? It's not supposed to be something that's, this is the way that we do it and we're not doing it any other way. It needs to be adjusted for things like trends, as you mentioned, Howard, for changes in the product, for changes in your messaging, for changes in your strategy, so that it's still recognizable, but it's like a better evolution of itself day by day. Now, within that, when you have a brand that you're starting to work with, it needs to be flexible enough, and you need to understand that certain channels and certain places that you're going to publish and different types of media have slightly different interpretations of the brand, right? So your HR is going to do something looks, something that you wouldn't show to your customers. It's a little bit more fun and lighthearted. You might want to do some ads that are a little bit out there. They're grabbing attention a little bit more, but it still needs to be recognizable as your brand, because otherwise, why bother? When you do something at a conference, as you said, you need to be able to grab somebody's attention. That your booth needs to be visually appealing. So how can you accomplish those things within the brand so that they'll end up reading those stats and looking at the customers that you have on your booth design? So that flexibility needs to be kind of baked into the brand that's created for you or by you. To answer the second part of your question about AI, this is a tool that designers are more and more, I think, accepting and coming to terms with. I think a lot of people, not just designers, are afraid intuitively of AI. It's like it evokes a visceral fear, I think, in some people. Oh, it's going to replace my job, or it's going to take over the world. The most extreme examples.
I have that fear too. It's not just design. I think everyone should not. It's not fearful, but it's one of those. There's a feeling that's like, okay, how can I do better? Even right. That's me personally. I say to myself, every time I see something new come out in within the AI space that I know was a core part of my responsibilities or job. Even AI is even affecting at the strategic level. So it really is affecting almost every role, especially in marketing.
Yeah.
So it's one of the interesting things about that. We're going to say.
Well, I want to just say that, I mean, we're talking about AI and as a tool. How are you using AI to improve your design?
Yeah. So AI has been a great tool for me. I think the challenge at first was for me to understand how to harness the power of AI in order to make my work better. And so I can give you an example of something I did this morning, actually. I needed a very specific image. 6 months ago, I would have just gone right to stock photography and spent half an hour or an hour searching for what I wanted. Instead, I went to Midjourney. I uploaded some reference photos. This is the kind of style I'm looking for. And I typed, I use that as my mood board. I typed in very specific instructions. And it took me a few iterations, but eventually I found one that was 95% what I wanted. Downloaded it. I dropped it into Photoshop. Photoshop also has, within the platform itself, it has its own AI tools. So using Photoshop, something that would have taken me probably half a day, 2 years ago, I selected the area that I needed changed. I used Generate AI right in Photoshop, changed this person's shirt to what I wanted it to be, and I was done.
Incredible. So I like how you're dropping the tools you're using. Midjourney, I think we all use. Adobe's probably a bit more professional tool here, but it also sounds to me then that a marketer who's got a little bit of bandwidth can start being much more independent, and then the briefing and the unbriefing and the debriefing and the rebriefing, like that whole back and forth, is something you can do iterations with different prompts.
That's a tough question.
What does that mean for the future of design? Like, I'm not saying that we just as the future of marketers and the future of sales gen, the future, all these things. But here we have this incredible, journey that you would have had to choose the right tone and style. Now, to get it 90% right takes a few prompts and a half hour, the same time to brief someone else. You can do it yourself. So what does that mean for the role of design using all these new superpowers? What stays with other marketers, and what is the role of a superior design team?
Right. So in the example I gave, this was one image that I needed for a cover of a use case, for example. I'm not going to take the use case text and drop it into an AI tool and tell it to, generate a PDF use case for me. It's not there yet. We've made great strides, but I think that we're not at a point where it can replace a design team or a designer. It's something that can elevate the level of design and make us much more efficient. But I'd be hard pressed to find an example of a standout brand that doesn't use a designer. They just do everything on AI. It's not there yet. Maybe it will be. I'm not sure. I still think
I think it's close. Actually, sorry to cut you off. Sorry, you were gonna say.
No, go on. I want to hear what you.
No, I was gonna say it's actually getting close. And what I'm impressed with the AI tools, mostly because been using them for a while, and Jake, we discussed it, that even before it hit mainstream, we were doing deeper dives into like what we can do. But I'm seeing improvements, quarterly on like exponential. That as a small team now, or even if consulting with a first be working with a small startup, be hard pressed to say get a designer, because I think you hit on something before. Maybe it's the creativity, right? If you're someone who has bandwidth for the creativity and the prompting and the ideas, then maybe that's okay, but you have to have time for it. And if you don't, maybe the designers are the better role, are the better person for the team.
I want to remember that somewhere on this
see-
bookshelf behind me, there's a book.
1 second.
Wait.
Answer
Let's
how.
let our guest talk. Sorry.
You need to have, and then you have to turn off your blur, Jake, because we don't see what you're pointing at. What you're saying, Howard, I think is correct, that for one, for certain assets, maybe for a landing page or for social media posts, AI can definitely do the job. I think for more impactful projects, you need to have that bigger picture and that vision, and not just to be able to, put a band-aid. Jake,
I just want to remind you that I think the creativity is there. I was just going to the bookshelf back there to try and find a book that we all together put together I think we did it very quickly. In the good old days of 3 years ago, we put together a book. We published the book. I think it was maybe a month project. And we were so delighted, and we sent it to each of our prime prospects, and they were wowed with who the heck writes books anymore? It took us maybe a month to get it done. Howard, you wrote a book yesterday, is that right?
A book is being generous.
How many pages is it, Howard?
No, Jake is being.
I know. Did you
text
a book?
It was a Dr. Seuss style, from the Dr. Seuss ChatGPT trend. Jumped on that, and I wrote I don't know, maybe it's like 12 pages, but it's Dr. Seuss. So it was about a 3-hour thing. So I think what Jake is getting at is that stuff that used to take a month, and that was considered speedy because we had the budget and the team and the energy behind it. That might be something that would be in less than a week, end to end.
If you're looking at both content and design and using AI tools, it's something that can get you part of the way or even most of the way there. Also regarding, ChatGPT and content, but it's something that still needs the human touch, and it needs, as Howard, we were just saying, to see the bigger picture. So when you're looking at messaging, it's something that can get you part of the way or even most of the way there. Also regarding, ChatGPT and content, but it's something that still needs the human touch, and it needs, as Howard, we were just saying, to see the bigger picture. So when you're looking at messaging, if you're using ChatGPT to generate content for you, you still need to review that content. You still need to make sure it's on message.
Okay.
It's copy.
Yeah, Jake, that book has two spelling mistakes, and this is one of the most frustrating things when it comes to design. Rachel, you probably know this also. When it makes a mistake in the image, and you're like literally telling it to change it then changes the whole image. And then you write, no, I want exactly this, but change this word, and it does whatever the heck it wants.
I was laughing at the awkwardness sometimes. I put a prompt the other day. I want 2 people in a professional office environment working together. So what did it do? It gave me the office environment. It gave me the people, which by the way are looking in like weird ways. They're not looking, and they're both holding the same mouse. They're working together.
They're working together. That's crazy.
It was hilarious.
Rach, we've been talking about AI, maybe the future of this trend, but you've got a lot of experience. I want to just kind of feel out what it's like working in a big team, and the marketers, the CMOs, the CROs, everyone's got
all the voices
about what you're doing, and they're probably like, I could do it faster, which is what's taking so long, or change that. And there's all these silly memes of the different prices of, if you watch me, I charge more. If I do it, if I give you instructions, charge more. Maybe you can share some. You probably have so many stories, probably about Howard and myself as well. So is there a silly story or what is the takeaway for people who are working with designers about How much is guidance? How much is briefing? How much is meddling? How much is get out of my hair? How much is I'm not taking your phone call anymore? Like, where's tell some
Yeah.
stories and give us some guidance
Yeah.
so we can be better partners.
Well, the best thing to do is always to give as much information as possible up front. If you have references, give references. If you have a brief, share your brief. If you have something that you don't like, maybe you did a landing page and you're like, we don't want it to look like this. Show us that so that we can get direction before we even begin about where we want to go with it. In terms of the meddling, the feedback versus meddling, I mean, it's when you're in-house, you have a little bit more space to push back and to say, no, I really believe that we need to do it this way. When you're a freelancer or an agency, you can do that too. You have to be, first of all, you have to be a little bit more delicate about it because you don't want to get into a fight with your clients over what's going to end up being their design at the end of the day. You can say, look, in my experience, I think it's better if we do it this way. Here's a reference, here's an example. At the end of the day, they're your clients. So you kind of have to just say, okay, you know what? You're going to pay my invoice at the end of the month. I'll do what you want.
So tell us, you have a funny story or like that? No, you don't have to mention any names. And I'm sure with all the portfolio, like you said, 20 years of experience, you must have something where you're like, oh, that is like the silliest thing
Horrifying.
Ever.
I'll give myself away. Maybe when we're offline, I'll be happy to show you guys some examples of some horrifying things that I've had to do in my time. But I think that's why it's also important for marketing designers to be part of that strategic process and part of the learning process as in a marketing team. Also, if you're a freelancer, I mean, I have one client that we do a quarterly, they're outsourcing all of their marketing. They have one VP marketing in-house. Everything is outsourced, everything. But we have a quarterly call where we review the numbers together. We talk about strategy, we talk about new ideas, and then we have an annual call where we, review what we've done in the past year, what are we looking forward to doing the next year plan. And those kinds of processes and discussions make my work so much more impactful and meaningful and give me the context and the tools that I need to deliver the best result that I can. And so that's true for both freelancers and in-house creative teams to make sure that they're part of that strategic and feedback process to get the most out of them that you can.
Rach, you probably have seen so many things. So you're telling us, be part of the team, and that will help you in your design, and you'll feel like you're more of it. What is an area that you think marketers and executives are spending too much time on, and what's an area on the design arena that we're spending not enough? We talk too much about colors, about fonts, about mobile friendliness, about what do we tell us in your perspective, what you're getting too much pushback and something on the other hand that's not getting enough attention.
Honestly, Jake, all those things that you mentioned are very important.
Okay.
Colors, topography. I mean, I can give you a different kind of example where I think not enough attention is being given, which is sales enablement. I think that first of all, everything that your customer sees is part of your brand and touches and the experience that they have with your customer support, everything, that's your brand, right? So when you're talking about sales enablement materials, it doesn't end at the sales deck. That's only the beginning. When you're talking about every kind of, sales proposals that you're sending, if you want to send them case studies, examples, videos, I mean, there's been several years that there have been platforms that can kind of give them a customized experience. I think those platforms have a lot of value. I think you need to look at every single contracts. I mean, everything that you send to your customer needs to be professional and polished and show that you are taking them seriously and that you value their time, not just throwing them a Word document and saying, here, sign this.
Yeah, that's
interesting.
excellent.
Yeah, I think we generally, marketing likes to take care of the top of the funnel. We design the ebooks, we like to do that, but as those relationships are getting more serious, we probably give a little bit too much leeway on the brand. I think that's a good comment.
It's not okay. It's not. I mean, it's the customer life cycle. There needs to be a professional experience in every single point in that life cycle.
Customer
Speaking
marketing,
of life cycle,
product marketing, it goes deeper than that. Yeah, that's good.
I was gonna say, speaking of life cycle, where do you? This is an ultimate segue here. Life cycle. Where do you bring design into your personal life? I mean, there's listeners. Like I was gonna say that your background. If you're watching this podcast, then you can see the great background Racheal has. But if you're if you're listening, just take our word for it.
So this room, my office, this is my home office, is hand painted by yours truly. I needed to give it a little bit of warmth. Actually, these two images that you can there are in the background are AI generated artwork.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, my prompts were I told it to give me a painting style of a fern branch, and it gave me a few options. I didn't even get it professionally printed yet. I still need to get them printed. But bringing design into my home is something that's important to me, to give me kind of I think it's a personal, I don't know if it's related to being a designer or if it's just personal, to kind of give me like the space that I need to be able to focus on my work and not to have, you know, a mess all over the place and distractions.
That's so meaningful. I think that also touched on what you said earlier about where design actually, like how it makes our customers feel. And just listening to you talk about it in your personal space, that's how design has the impact to affect everyone. But also really cool that you have really embraced AI. Looks like it's not just, we talked about fear, but you totally brought it into your personal space. It's that's quite unique. I really appreciate that, exciting. Actually.
I mean, that idea of design, and then I see how interior design could do a lot of work with me, which I'm just trying to get through my life, but you're actually going to design, keep it enjoyable.
Howard, nice way to bring it full circle. I respect that.
No, it's really nice.
Racheal, thank you so much for sharing. I don't know if there's anything more that you want to say, because I think that you've given great perspective as to how design should be in the table. And we touched a little bit about the strategic interactions. We also talked about the feeling and the metrics, and we acknowledge that that's still a challenge about where it is. So that's a problem for a lot of people. But I think that you gave the sense, the feeling, even in this last story, about the role design has throughout the sales process, throughout the business, and even in our personal lives. So we can acknowledge it's there, but dang it, it's so damn difficult to put it on the metric sheet when we're accountable for revenue and pipeline, and that still remains there. But we've got some tools that are helping us, and you're activating them now.
Yeah, so I agree, Jake. It also sounds like there's trust, and I think this is also a theme. Thinking of all the people we bring on, we keep talking about metrics, and we know that, Jake, with you, the metrics have worked very closely. Are so important, especially also if you're reporting to board, to CEO and the board. It's all the parts, including design. And it's so great to hear from you, Racheal, on your perspective on it might seem like a detail, but it's an important detail of the go-to-market from the full life cycle, like from the marketing, the sales enablement, the customer experience as well. So really, thank you for sharing with us.
It was my pleasure. I wish you.
Yeah, we hope to chat again soon. As we grow, we do have a list. Like I said, we like to talk to people that we know and that we trust and that we're close with. And so there'll be repeats for sure at some point, because I do, like I said in the earlier post, hope to go really long term with these chats. And so we really like to have you back on, as with all our guests.
Yeah, I'll be happy to. You guys bring so much value, and I respect you both immensely. And wish you the best of luck with your podcast.
Thank you.
Racheal.
Take care, John. Bye.
Holidays.
Be well. Yeah, happy holidays. Be well. Wow, that was interesting chat, Jake. You're really on about these metrics. You know what I mean? I know you're trying. It's not a contrarian thing. They're so important. And there's a full range, right? Like, I don't even know, no mentioning names, but we know that certain brand projects are in the six figures. Yeah. And for larger companies, that's in the startup world. For larger enterprise, we're talking millions of dollars that are put into design. You got branding elements.
I'm just saying the value of this. I'm not putting that down. I'm just not trying to understand quantification. Every ad campaign, every email campaign is responsible for delivering results. And I kind of feel like somehow it gets a free pass. And I don't know, it's amazing that it says it's thoughtful, it's strategic, it's collaborative, it's using best tools, but yet.
Well, you just missed something there. the creativity, the people that you bring on for this role are the ones that need to bring the ideas. Like what I like Racheal said, she used AI and her prompting to help her with the ideation and the creativity. And that's what I did. You mentioned the book also. Like I wrote this book, but it didn't come out of nowhere. You have to take a few minutes to think about it. You have to know what you want to see and bring that creativity to the table. And if you don't, if you lack it, then that might be the gap that you might be
and
sensing.
Maybe that's where actually we didn't get to this, but maybe the role of design is not actually in the fonts and colors, but it's actually the campaign creativity of understanding the business well enough and thinking about creative ways to get there. So it actually, the real title is not lead designer, but it's head of creative. And I think that
head of creative,
that's where it's going, because at the low end, design is becoming pretty simplistic, and you can get 80% of the way right there. But to come up with a Dr. Seuss book, and then to distribute the Dr. Seuss book, and to get action on the Dr. Seuss book, that's the creative gem. And I do think that probably we could have gone there more. I like how she's certainly a good partner in that and has great experience in that. We probably were anchored in the conversation a little bit more to the the very basic functionality of design, but it's the creative juices that can lead to the campaigns that are so effective.
For sure. All right, always nice chatting, Jake. These I think they're good. It's really cooking, these chats, and it looks like our audience enjoys it. Who knows, right? We're just doing this for fun.
I want to tell you, most importantly, is that you and I are enjoying it, and our wives have half-hour free time every week. So
that's true.
Howard, great seeing you and great speaking with you.
Nice to see you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.